What's happening, Lateral Grip? This is Comedian Token. We are here to do this thing again. We are going to talk NASCAR, baby. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the news. We're going to bring up the news. We're going to talk about the news first. So, just seen, obviously, I'm doing this podcast a little later in the week than I normally have done, last week at least. And so, with that being said, we are going to talk penalties. Okay, first and foremost, let's talk the truck series for just a minute. So, the truck series, they've been doing, I mean, it seems like nobody seems to be able to pass tech inspection lately. And unfortunately, they're penalizing drivers by they're losing practice time. They're losing unfortunate things, that they probably really need in the truck series. Okay. They don't need to lose practice time because they can't, build a truck, I guess, to NASCAR satisfaction, even though these trucks that are getting penalized, it's not going to matter where they come out anyway. They're probably not going to be doing that well in the race. But with that being said, let's talk Cup Series penalty, not penalties, but penalty. Okay, so in the Cup Series race, and we're going to talk about the Cup Series later on, but we're going to talk about this right now. In the Cup Series race, there was an incident between, why can't I remember his name? All of a sudden, it will come up. Let me see. Let's see. Gibbs, Ty Gibbs. I want to say Tyler. It probably is Tyler. But between Ty Gibbs and and Ryan Priest, between Ty Gibbs and Ryan Priest. Now, Ryan Priest said on the radio, "I'm tired of this guy. I'm sick of it. If I get back to him, it's done." Kind of to those words. I'm over it. Is what he said pretty specifically on the radio. And next thing you know, Ty Gibbs was in the wall. And of course, who was behind him was Ryan Priest. Now, there were multiple angles of this, not great angles. And there was, someone in the form of Shane Van Gisbergen that basically said on the radio, Ryan Priest committed murder. Okay, so basically, he came up there and he hit Ty Gibbs and took him out. It was a hard hit for Ty Gibbs. Um, and Ryan Priest was, in fact, penalized $50,000. 25 owner and driver points. Now, was this because Ryan Priest retaliated, or was this because Ryan Priest said he was probably going to retaliate? He didn't say probably, he said, "I'm done." Okay, so he basically made the statement of here's what's about to happen if I get back to this guy. And therefore, his words and the action of his words created the absolute certainty that NASCAR decided that this is what in fact has happened, and they have fined Ryan Priest as such. Now, on the other side of this coin, late race, last lap battle, Kyle Busch versus John Hunter Nemechek. Now, John Hunter is not necessarily up on top of the track, but John Hunter was mentioned many times by Kyle Busch's spotter as outside, outside. He's outside, and Kyle Busch moved up, whether it was 6 inches, a foot, whatever. Kyle Busch knew that John Hunter was there. May not have known where he was there, but he knew he was there according to his spotter. And Kyle Busch moves up and effectively is not clear and noses his truck into the wall off of John Hunter Nemechek. I'm sorry, his car. Excuse me. We're talking about the Cup race now. His car into the wall, and inevitably damages his equipment. Now, Kyle Busch continues on, however, be it very slowly. Essentially, waits till John Hunter Nemechek is there and turns right into him, effectively killing John Hunter's day at that point. Destroyed John Hunter's car, and let's be honest. Does anybody in their right mind, and I'm a Kyle Busch fan, let's remember this now, but does anybody in their right mind think that Kyle Busch's car immediately lost power, like it braked immediately and turned right, and then and that's when it was broken and immediately turned right into John Hunter Nemechek? Does anybody think that? I don't think so. But did Kyle Busch say, I took out John Hunter Nemechek for wrecking me? He didn't. Did he take action as such? I think everybody on the planet would agree as such. In fact, I think the data, I don't think it's called SMT anymore, but I think the data would correlate to the wheel turning right and to him hitting the brake and taking out John Hunter Nemechek. But did he say it? He didn't. So what did Kyle Busch get for that action? A stern warning. Now, there's one or two things you could take on this. One, Kyle Busch is not a threat to NASCAR anymore. Used to, Kyle Busch would be the guy that they would say, man, we're putting the fine on you. We're putting the hammer down. We don't like the way you're doing things, Kyle Busch. But they are not worried about Kyle Busch anymore. Kyle Busch hasn't shown that he's a threat to NASCAR in a few years now. So NASCAR has shown that, well, we're not concerned about you, Kyle Busch. You're just going to sign your own death warrant at this point because you're the one getting in your own way. That's what I believe NASCAR is saying to Kyle Busch there. Because I don't think anybody on the planet would believe that that was an accident. The second portion of the John Hunter Nemechek Kyle Busch incident, including NASCAR. But NASCAR just simply said, we're going to give you a warning because you're not a threat to us anymore. We're not worried about you. So there it is. That's my take on it. Let me know what you all think because I think that NASCAR has just made the decision that Kyle Busch isn't a threat. Simple as that. So they're saying, we see you, but you're not really hurting anybody but yourself. So there you go. So now we are going to talk about some racing. We did have all three series at Texas, which, by the way, Texas Motor Speedway, I know everybody keeps talking about let it age some more, let it age some more. Oh man, it's getting better. You know what? That was some great racing. And all the people that hate Texas, well, they hate it because the drivers actually have to tiptoe around it because they can't run it wide open. Texas Motor Speedway is a great track, configuration, whatever you want to call it aside. I don't care about the passing because this is called racing. If you want to pass a car, make your car better than the next car. I understand aero blocking. I understand all of those things that we talk about. However, I also understand racing, and that was racing. All three series had great racing. Yes, track position was important, but that's also a strategy in long racing. We're not talking about 10, 20 lap races, 30 lap races. We're talking about over 100 lap races. So, of course, there's got to be strategy. Of course, every car is not going to be able to pass each other on a dime. That's just the way it is. Okay. But with that being said, let's talk truck series first. So in the truck series, we had some drivers that came from the Cup series. We had Kyle Busch in a Spire truck. We had Carson Hocevar in a Spire truck. We had Ross Chastain I don't remember what truck he was in, but he was in that race as well. And of course, we had our usual cast of characters: Gio Rogero, Caden Honeycutt, Brandon Jones was in this race out of the O'Reilly series. Ben Rhodes. In fact, I think Ben Rhodes was on the pole for this race, and this was a great race. This was a fun race to watch. There was a lot of jockeying for position. There was a lot of back and forth. I'll be honest with you, being a Kyle Busch fan, Kyle Busch gets into the wall early in the race on his own doing, and that truck has to have a green flag pit stop. They have to pull out some fenders. They have to fix some things. I'm looking at the fact that who is going to win this race besides Kyle Busch because there's no way Kyle is even having a chance. Although Kyle, I'll be honest, in the Spire equipment, Kyle hasn't been the best in the Spire equipment, whether it's been Kyle, whether it's been something else. I know that when Kyle was in a Toyota, when he had his truck series trucks and he was in a Toyota, those Toyotas could not be stopped. But As a Chevrolet, Spire Motorsports, they've just not been great. I mean, they've been okay, but they've not been great. And I would even say that for Friday night. But I have to now take back those words a little bit because the winner of this race was Carson Hocevar for Spire Motorsports in a Spire truck, in a Spire Chevrolet, which also Kyle Busch was in. But again, Kyle hit the wall early. Now, obviously, they did get the truck right later in the race, but let's talk about a few things here real quick. So, stage one, Ben Rhodes, again, pole sitter, he wins stage one. Carson Hocevar does get stage two. Now, again, I did tell you that Kyle Busch, tapped the wall early in the race, so he spent most of the race trying to get back on, whether it was getting back on the lead lap, whether it was just getting back in contention. This is what Kyle spent most of the race doing. So Kyle really wasn't a contender in this race. But with 22 laps to go, Kyle Busch spun. Now, before we get into that, let's talk about or not Kyle Busch. I'm sorry, Tyler Ankrum spun. But let's talk about a few things that did happen. So there was a caution. I don't believe this was the Tyler Ankrum caution though. In which truck spins. Justin Haley tries to avoid that spin, ends up taking it down in the grass. Immediately, that splitter dug into the grass, ripped the truck up about 3-4 feet in the air on the front end, and that truck is just absolutely destroyed at that point. This is what happened. Now, there was another thing in the race that I didn't really get any confirmation on. Corey LaJoy, he's obviously in that 10 truck now. Dodge Ram, Colleague Racing. They just, something happened. They were 4 laps down pretty early. They stayed 4 laps down. They didn't really move any farther up. But that was Corey LaJoy's day, unfortunately. So there was no contention there from the Dodges in this race. But okay, so 22 laps to go. Tyler Ankrum, who seems to be up towards the front, spins out, bringing out a huge caution that tightened up the field. Kyle Busch was at this point on the lead lap. There's some pitting that happens. And next thing you know, Kyle Busch is up there in the top 10 in this race. Now, a few laps to go. We got Carson Hocevar up in the mix. And what we end up having is Kyle Busch pushes the issue, which is what Kyle's supposed to do. Okay. He ends up getting around some trucks, ends up getting in the second place position. So now, rounding it out, we've got, and by the way, Lane Riggs was lights out fast in this race. But I believe Lane ended up getting a little bit of damage there, and that affected his truck going forward. Towards the very end of the race there, whether or not he just tapped the wall a little bit, I believe that affected the aero on his truck, and his truck just wasn't as fast as it was in those closing laps. But with that being said, we got our top 10 running order. Winner Carson Hocevar, second Kyle Busch, third Caden Honeycutt, fourth Brandon Jones brings that home that number one Tricon Garage truck home in fourth. Ben Rhodes fifth, Lane Riggs sixth, Daniel Hemrick seventh, Christian Eckes eighth, and ninth Ty Majeski. And to round out the top 10 was Chandler Smith um, in this race. Now, one other thing I did want to bring up in this race, people have said they don't like Carson's fire suit. I don't know. I thought it worked really well for Texas. I mean, he's got the Ride the Dente, the Cup Series suit on for Chili's. Looks like he's got a full cowboy outfit on, right? Like he's ready to step into the Gillies, country bar to go do some line dancing on the sawdust floor. And all he's got to do is put on the cowboy hat, the winning cowboy hat, and he's got it. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like he's wearing a full-fledged country outfit, cowboy boots included, even though it's just simply a fire suit. A really cool idea. I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's great for branding and marketing. And I mean, you're going to see it a lot more with Carson. He's going to get interviewed a lot. There's no question about that, right? The hurricane has come to town, and it doesn't seem like it's leaving anytime soon. That was Friday night. That's what we got for Friday night. Now we are going to take a look at the O'Reilly's race. Now, the O'Reilly's race did have some key people in it. Obviously, Corey Day was there. We had Kyle Larson in the 88 this week. We had Connor in the one, I believe. Yeah, Connor was in the one, which put Carson Quapple in the 9. So a little jockey in the cars there. In fact, with Kyle Larson being in the 88, that put um, Raja Karuth, I believe, in the 32, which is not as good of equipment. But he is full time. He's just sharing a ride here and there in places. But with that being said, this was once again, for some reason, on the mile and a half, the O'Reilly's cars immediately right out the gate tend to have problems. Now I get it. There's not a lot of practice, if any practice. And I get that Texas is slick and Texas has its moments and Texas has bumps in places. And we talk about the tunnel and all these various things. But these O'Reilly's cars, for about the past 3 or 4 weeks, within the first lap or so, they've been getting in some pretty major wrecks. And this was no exception. This was no exception. There was an incident right out the gate. Um, Obviously, it affected a few cars there, but it wasn't, too. I mean, there were a few that it affected, obviously, more than others. But with that being said, there was some strong, strong racing in this particular one. And man, it was fun to watch. It was a fun race to watch. We had jockeying for position all over the place. Brent Cruz was just kind of biding his time. He was up in there, but he wasn't really a major factor in there. He was just kind of biding his time. Now, when I did talk about the early incident, I forgot to mention Corey Day this time around was in that early incident, not of his doing. However, it did absolutely destroy his car, and he was out of this one very quickly, unfortunately. So Corey Day definitely had some issues in this one. Raja Caruth had a DNF in this one. Um, so those were some big ones that didn't obviously help their point standings going forward. But Corey Day, when it was all said and done, even though he finished last, he didn't actually end up losing any positions, just lost some points. But he's still very much within the cut line, very much within the chase format at this point. Um, with that being said, Connor Zilic, he wins stage two. Let's see who did win stage one. Let me get back to that. I don't see who got stage one here. But there was some late race cautions. With those late race cautions, there was 20 laps remaining. Um, There was some pits that happened, some pit calls that happened. Larson eventually went back to fifth, but he fought back and he was able to lead 93 laps in this race. By the way, he even though it looked like he was just in the mix, he led a lot of laps. Allgaier was Allgaier in this race. Allgaier was a force to be reckoned with, and in fact, he ends up finishing second in this race. Brent Cruz, third place finish here. That kid is phenomenal already, but it's just going to be more and more phenomenal. Everybody was worried about is he even going to make the chase? Not only will he make the chase, it's just a matter of how high he's going to go up. People kind of feel like he's going to win a race at some point. So that was that race there. Let me go ahead and give you the top 10 of this one. We've got Kyle Larson, Justin Allgaier, Sam Mayer brings it home in third, Brent Cruz in fourth place. Sorry, Brent Cruz was fourth place in this one. My apologies. Parker Retzloff, Viking Motorsports. Parker has been doing it and getting it done in this equipment. Sixth, Sheldon Creed. Seventh, Austin Hill. Eighth, Brandon Jones. Nine, Jesse Love. And 10th, once again, Jeremy Clements. Go ahead, Jeremy Clements on the mile and a half. Got the top 10. That is fantastic. Junior Motorsports. Again, the 88 was Junior Motorsports. They've been dominating. Whether it's a Cup regular or whether it's Justin Allgaier in one of those cars. They have just been dominating the season. So that's been good for Junior Motorsports. Not good for the rest of the field. Brent Cruz, I do want to mention he was in the dash for cash. Because he finished fourth, he did get $100,000 for finishing fourth. So depending on what his contract looks like, how much he's got to split with everybody else, he made a nice chunk of money for that fourth place finish there. So congratulations, Brent Cruz there. Next week, they will be in Watkins Glen. There will be new track limits. So that will be exciting to see how that works out from the O'Reilly side. But Justin Allgaier's good on road courses too. Now they say Brent Cruz is best on road courses, so you've seen what he's been doing on ovals. I'll be interested to see what he does on the road course. But until then, we are going to move over to the Cup Series. Now, the Cup Series, um, solid racing, solid racing. We know who wins it. Chase Elliott gets the win. Obviously, a popular win, most popular driver. Everybody loves Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott leads a race high, 87 laps. And he wins by about 4/10 of a second over Denny Hamlin, even though they had a late race restart. Now, at this point, Kyle Busch, well, first off, let's talk about a few incidents that happened. So, the first incident that happened, obviously, we're talking about Ryan Preece. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Nope, that was the first incident, I believe. Ryan Preece, again, he makes the statement, I'm done with this guy. If I get back to him, I'm done. And next thing you know, Ty Gibbs is spinning into the wall hard, and he is pretty much out of the race. Again, Shane Van Gisbergen makes a statement, about him hitting him and everything, even though Ryan Preece is still trying to say that he never even touched him. So, with that being said, we know Ryan Preece got fined for this $50,000, 25 points, owner and driver points. So that affects him there in that situation. Now, let's talk about another incident that happened. Lap 70, Christopher Bell. He was going for the lead instead of slowing down for the wreck. He was going for the lead. He had a split second decision to go high or stay low. Todd Gilliland is spinning. Now, in order to spin and not smash, back it into the wall and destroy the back of the car, you will gas it up. And I say you as in the driver, they will gas it up to try to get those wheels spinning to try to keep that car off the wall, which is what Gilliland did. And when that car finally bit, it started heading down the track, which is where Christopher Bell was going, and it just barely nudged Christopher Bell. Unfortunately, at 180 miles an hour. So Christopher Bell being nudged at 180 miles an hour, it just pushes the car to the right and then the left, and now the car is essentially out of control going into the corner, and the car ends up going up and smashing the wall, effectively ruining Christopher Bell's day. Christopher Bell needs a little bit of luck on his side because he has had great cars, he has been leading races, and he has had problems, not of his doing. And that is unfortunate. Now, could Christopher Bell have maybe slowed it down, stayed in second place, maybe decided to go high instead of committing completely to the bottom? He absolutely could have done all those things, but all of that is hindsight is 2020. And the bottom line is we don't have a Christopher Ball, right? We don't have a crystal ball. So it is what it is. Unfortunately, Bell's day is ruined, and that's the reason why. Now, the stage one winner of this race was Eric Jones. Stage two winner Chase Elliott. So obviously, Chase Elliott was on a tear. Lap 108 under caution. Now, there was a lot of pit road problems and mishaps in this race. Unfortunately, some of these things were out of the control of anybody. But in this case, we're talking about lap 107. Cars are on pit road. Joey Logano is going towards his stall. Let me think. No, Joey Logano had pitted at this point. I believe Joey Logano was coming out of his stall. But he comes across a car. I want to say this is Cole Custer, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Corey Haim, Ty Gibbs. Yeah, I believe this is Cole Custer. Anyway, Cole Custer stops in effect to stop another incident from happening. And when he stops, the information wasn't relayed to Joey Logano. Now, that's partly because there's a lot of jockeying of who gives what information on pit road. No real fault to anybody. Cole Custer is trying to stop an incident from happening. Joey Logano is just trying to get out of his pit stall and get back on the track. Joey Logano is still on the bottom lane. Joey Logano plows into a stopped on pit road Cole Custer, which absolutely destroys Joey Logano's car on the front end. I mean, it is just absolutely destroyed. I mean, if you look into effect, this is a car at 55 miles an hour because I believe that was pit road speed, 55 miles an hour. That's hitting the car at a dead stop. I mean, if you're not wearing a seatbelt, you go through the windshield. I mean, it's not. We're not talking about racing here. Obviously, they're wearing full harnesses and stuff, but this just kind of gives you the impact of the situation, and it absolutely destroys Joey Logano's car, ending his day. And there you have it. That is what happened there. Now, with a few laps to go, there is another caution. Okay, I'm not real sure what this particular caution was for. Let's see. However, um, at this point, 11 laps to go or so, the cars are riding around, and I say riding around as in not under caution before this caution comes out. Kyle Busch is firmly in ninth place. Doesn't look like there's any people who are contending to try to get that spot. Doesn't look like he's going to be getting any other spot. Chase Elliott's leading, um, but we have a caution. And when we have this caution, of course, what does that do? Is that takes the field, that makes them make decisions. What are you going to do? You going to pit? You going to stay out? What are you going to do? Now, in this position, Chase Briscoe decides to pit. Who doesn't pit is Denny Hamlin. He decides this time around. They tell him to pit. He's like, you know what, guys? I think we're staying out this time. It's just better for track position. Now, was it the right move for Denny Hamlin? I mean, he got second. It probably was. He doesn't think he probably could have won the race even with tires. But again, hindsight is 2020. But here we go. A few laps to go. We go back to green. Kyle Busch doesn't get the best restart, so he's still in the top 10 or 11 at this point. This is when he is below John Hunter Nemechek. And again, this is the incident we talked about in the beginning. He moves up, outside, doesn't care. He moves up and he ends up looking like he was just really trying to take the spot, even though he wasn't clear. The car noses into the wall pretty hard, and then it noses out. John Hunter Nemechek keeps on. Kyle Busch is moving a little slower around the track. As John Hunter Nemechek gets back to Kyle Busch basically hangs the rights, smashes into John Hunter Nemechek, smashing him into the outside wall. Kyle Busch ends up finishing 20th. John Hunter finishes 21st effectively, even with all of the damage, because they were the last cars on the lead lap, basically. And with that being said, race is over. Chase Elliott wins the race. They do not really throw the caution for the race, even though they probably would have thrown the caution earlier in the race for that same incident. That's unfortunate. We got to be consistent here, guys. Doesn't matter whether it's first lap or last lap. But with that being said, Chase Elliott wins the race. Our top 10. Let's see here. Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin once again second place, which puts him second place in points now behind Tyler Reddick. Third, Alex Bowman, second top three in a row. Fantastic for Alex Bowman. Fourth, Tyler Reddick. Fifth, Chris Buescher. Sixth, Daniel Suarez. Seventh, Carson Hocevar. Eighth, William Byron. Ninth, Bubba Wallace. And 10th was Ryan Blaney. Now, Ryan Blaney did have a pit road incident earlier in the day. However, this was Ryan Blaney's fault, not Ryan Blaney's pit crew fault. And Ryan Blaney took responsibility for that and said, we'll get him back. And that's what they've been doing all year, whether it was his fault or their fault. They've been getting them back. So congratulations on that. Still pulling out that top 10 finish. Bubba Wallace did start from the back because he was in an accident the day before in practice. And so they went to a backup car, which was still pretty good as he finishes ninth place. Tyler Reddick, again, keeps his point lead, finished in fourth place. Daniel Suarez, Carson Hocevar, sixth and seventh for Spire Motorsports. Those cars are fast. And it's only a matter, well, I mean, if Daniel Suarez can stay on the trajectory, listen to me trying to mumble words here, stay on the same pace that Carson Hocevar is on right now, there's big things happening for Daniel Suarez this year, I gotta believe. So with all that being said, once again, we are going to Watkins Glen next week. Road course. Who do you think is the favorite to win? Shane Van Gisbergen. Will he win? Listen, I mean, I think the rest of the field is caught up, and I don't think the Trackhouse cars are as fast this year, which may play a factor uh, for Shane Van Gisbergen in being able to just drive away from the field. But with that being said, there is some new track limits that will be enforced as well. That should be interesting to see what happens and see what goes down there. And of course, we'll cover all the action and see what happens. Is Shane my pick to win that race? Hmm, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that we are going to see Tyler Reddick on a tear at Watkins Glen. I just do. I don't know why, but Tyler Reddick is strong as a road course driver, and they are doing big things at 2311. I think Tyler Reddick will be a force to be reckoned with on the road course. With all that being said, oh, by the way, Corey Heim was in this race as well. Riley Herbst did get his best finish in the Cup Series of 11th. Corey Heim was having a phenomenal day. Corey Heim was showing that track position was important as he was driving away from him. But Corey Heim did get in a late race spin of his own doing, which did hurt his finish, but he did honestly help his stock go up even further with showing what he could do again in that Cup car. So, with all that being said, I appreciate y'all tuning in, listening to Lateral Grip. We'll do it again next week. Until then, once again, stay smooth, stay fast, and keep that right foot on the pedal. And this is Comedian Token. I am out, and you all have a good rest of your week.